So what we have here is an example of why we don't trust welds anymore. Welds are in the moment. Welds are good for 1 to 3 years. But as soon as you let water, now this thing was welded here many years back. This obviously held the leg up in the air. But as you can see, it's got paint on the steel, paint over here. And then, but look what happened here. Water, because the top of it wasn't sealed, water got in. And water got in, and if you get in here, Bill, quickly, over, get close. This is the inside of my weld. So when the weld is not done by a certified welder, this is basically a surface weld. But basically the water penetrated in here, and the water got in and ate the weld from inside out. Now, you got the same scenario here, and you've got the outside weld. Look how good that weld is. And it's not a good weld. This is a weld done by an average welder who basically melts rods. There's no real penetration, but to the average eye, they think this is a good welded connection. But as soon as you turn around, you realize that water was getting in there and it started eating the weld from the inside out. So this is not a common knowledge for a lot of people, that once you weld, a lot of times the weld is deteriorated from the inside out. So this thing, which when it was good, and if it was in this connection here, and let's say that was a position, now look this way, come on this side of it. If that's nice and tight like that, you'd never know that there's a bad weld there because it was nice and tight. It's painted here, it's painted there. There's nothing there to indicate. Go to the other side. There's nothing to indicate that there's a bad weld because it's painted here, it's painted here. There's no rust growth or anything. But all of a sudden now, when you look at it, there's no huge rust, over here. There's no huge rust. This is all surface rust. But this surface rust was enough to eat the weld. And basically, it lost the leg that was supporting half the staircase. Okay, so now, Andre, with that being said, this weld is compromised. And look at the welding on it. The welding is basically made not by a certified welder, but a shop welder. You know, some guy that works in a local ornamental iron workshop that just basically thinks he knows how to weld, and they're melting rods. And come on this side. There's another. Now, to the untrained eye, this looks like it's a good connection, but in actuality, it's not. What you need to do now, in order to nullify these two welds, as soon as you blow a hole through there and you put a bolt, now that weld can stay. Any welds that you have, you always try to seal it. So let's look at this weld over here now. As an example, this leg used to be over here, similar to this leg, and this leg is welded and bent. This leg is welded, and this leg used to be right here. Now this leg, if you look at it, trying to figure out where it was welded. Oh, right there. So now this leg was like this. Now, when you look at it, you got paint on this outside. You got paint on this outside, but yet on this inside, look at how this weld got eaten. And this is all surface welding, meaning that there was really no penetration because who was ever welding this didn't know how to penetrate. Now, had this thing been in its position here and I was inspecting it, I would expect a bolt in here. Keep your weld, but I don't trust it, and I can't verify it. And I'm familiar with bad welds, and this is now a common occurrence in a lot of the welds, is that unpainted welds, unsealed welds, they're growing from the inside out. They're rotting from the inside out. Okay? So it's very important that from now on, we're going to be modifying this to a new location anyway. But welding is no longer an acceptable issue with fire escapes. If they're bolted and we got two connections, what happens here is that this fire escape heats up in the summer and does this. And if you have a bolt will let the fire escape do this. And then when it cools down in the winter, it does this. Now, as soon as you freeze this with a weld, the fire escape still wants to do the same thing. It wants to heat up in the summer and do this, but now it's this. And then in the winter when it cools down, it wants to do this, and it can't. So it starts tearing the weld, because just through natural expansion and contraction, it snaps your welds. But that's why you have bolts. 98% of all the fire escapes built in America are bolted connections. So this fire escape can expand and grow because of this connection, but it can't expand and grow because of this connection. I can't verify this well, but as soon as you blow a bolt through there, I'm happy. That's correct. You weld this, that's incorrect. As soon as you put a bolt through it, because a lot of people don't seal the weld. And a lot of people are not certified welders who understand a structural weld needs a penetration weld and a covering weld. They don't do that. These are all welds done by Joe, ordinary Joe welding shop guy. Joe, I just learned how to melt rods, and a lot of your welds are surface welds, just like this one over here. Okay? And that's how critical. Now this is right down at the ground level. This is only 1 foot off the ground, but imagine this was 50 feet in the air, and somebody welded a fire escape that you're stepping on, and then all of a sudden, when that snapped, it twisted the whole fire escape stair, and you fell. You got it? That's what I'm worried about. That's what we have to concern ourselves with, is that some of these fire escapes are not being done correctly. Okay? All right.